Welcome. I am Megan, and this is Relo.AI. Today, we are talking about something many people feel long before they can explain it: paying too much to live where you are. This problem rarely shows up as missed payments or obvious financial distress. In fact, many households experiencing it appear stable from the outside. Income arrives on time, bills get paid, life continues. But beneath that surface, something shifts. Over time, trade-offs increase, flexibility fades, progress feels slower than effort. Eventually, people begin to sense that what they pay for their location no longer matches what they receive in return. Let's talk about the signs. Cost pressure almost never announces itself directly. It builds quietly. Bills arrive on schedule, income appears steady. The warning signs show up in patterns, not emergencies. The first sign is that housing costs exceed sustainable limits. When rent, mortgage payments, insurance, and utilities rise while income stays steady, the location begins to set your ceiling. This is the classic cost burden problem, and in many markets, it has become widespread. Each increase reduces your ability to absorb disruption: a job change, a medical bill, a family obligation. Without margin, even small shocks push households toward debt. The second sign is that income growth no longer improves your daily life. A raise arrives and almost immediately disappears into rent increases, taxes, or insurance adjustments. Nothing feels lighter. Nothing feels more secure. At that point, the location starts acting like a tax on ambition. In practice, you work harder simply to stay in the same place. The third sign is reliance on short-term coping tools. Some households begin splitting rent across paychecks. Others use credit or timing-based payment products to bridge gaps. News reporting has shown renters increasingly turning to rent now, pay later services, which can quietly add fees and amplify financial strain. These tools feel temporary, but over time they increase friction instead of relief. Another important signal is flat savings. You may still save something each month, but the number does not grow. Emergency funds plateau. Retirement contributions freeze at the same level year after year. Taken together, this suggests you are paying too much to live relative to a long horizon, even if every bill continues to get paid. The fifth sign is that you postpone life decisions because the math feels fragile. Career pivots get delayed. Family planning feels risky. Education goals stay on hold. Even necessary home repairs start to feel dangerous. When every decision carries financial fear, the location has begun shaping choices that should belong to you. Another sign often gets overlooked: you trade health and time for rent. Long commutes, second jobs, side hustles layered onto full-time work. Rest gets crowded out. The location requires constant output simply to remain viable. The cost here is not only financial. At a physiological level, chronic cost pressure pushes stress into the body, often without being named. For homeowners, there is a final signal. The home itself keeps asking for money. Maintenance arrives unpredictably, insurance premiums rise, property taxes creep upward. Research from Harvard has shown increasing homeowner cost burdens driven by expenses that extend beyond the mortgage payment alone. Even with rising home values, ownership can become a drag when the total cost line grows faster than income. If several of these signs feel familiar, this does not mean failure. It means the math has shifted. Paying more to live can be rational. It can support career growth, family needs, or access to specific opportunities. It makes sense when it is intentional, strategic, and time-bound. The problem begins when higher costs become permanent and unexamined. At that point, households stop planning around goals and start planning around constraints. That shift is subtle, but it matters. It marks the difference between living with agency and living with compliance. At Relo.AI, we work with people at this exact moment, not during crisis, during clarity. We help households step back from rising location costs, measure them honestly, and understand whether their current place still supports their future. Through structured cost analysis, housing review, and relocation planning, we help people see options they often assume are unavailable. The next step is not panic. The next step is perspective. If you are questioning whether your location still makes sense, that question deserves structure, not stress. To explore your options and understand what your location truly costs, visit Relo.AI. Because the goal is not simply to afford where you live, the goal is to protect choice, flexibility, and long-term freedom. Thanks for listening.